in the highlands of Ethiopia. Behind iron gates, one man stands guard. His face has not been seen by the outside world. In many years, he guards an artifact the world has searched for. For 3,000 years, the Ark of the Covenant, said to be hidden inside this chapel. But the Arkansas is only the beginning of Ethiopia's story. This is Ethiopia, the oldest independent nation in all of Africa. Here, ancient churches are carved downward into solid rock. In the desert, lava lakes burn beneath skies of fire. Warriors once defeated empires. When the rest of Africa fell, coffee itself was first discovered here by a young goat herder. Hidden tunnels lead to forgotten worlds and ancient secrets. Tribes here have kept their traditions. For 3,000 years, priests, warriors, and saints, who never bowed to foreign kings, eagles soar through the clouds, above sacred mountain peaks. To understand Ethiopia, you must go back to the beginning of mankind. You must travel deep into the deserts, where the first humans were born. In 1974, scientists came to a remote Ethiopian valley. There in the dust, they found a tiny fossilized skeleton. She was 3.2 million years old, and she walked upright. They called her Lucy, the missing link between ape and human. In Ethiopia, she has another name, Dinkinish, meaning you are marvelous. Lucy proved that humanity itself began here. In the valleys of Ethiopia, every face, every culture, every language traces back to this land. Ethiopia is quite literally the mother of us all. But Lucy was only the beginning of Ethiopia's incredible history. Tens of thousands of years later, her descendants built an empire, a civilization that traded with Rome, Egypt, and ancient India, a civilization with its own coins, alphabet, and mighty kings, a civilization called Aksum, the pride of the ancient world. At its peak,
Aksum stud all'Ancien
Persia, and China. Yet today, most of the world has never even heard its name. The Aksumites raised monuments, unlike anything seen before or since. Their stone obelisks rose into the sky, like the masts of giant ships. Dozens of stelae stand together in the sacred field of Aksum. How they were transported and raised, no one knows for certain. Long camel caravans once crossed the desert. From Jerusalem to Aksum, legend says the Queen of Sheba traveled to meet King Solomon himself. She returned home, carrying his son, a young prince named Menelik. When Menelik grew up, he traveled to Jerusalem to find his father. On his return, he brought back the most sacred object on earth, the Arkansas, said to hold the original 10 Commandments of Moses. For 3,000 years, the Ark has been hidden. In Aksum, a single chosen monk has guarded it, alone. For his entire life, he lights the candles in front of the sacred curtain. At every dawn,
no outsider, no journalist,
no king has ever been allowed inside. The carved wooden doors of the chapel remain forever closed. At dusk, the candles flicker through the small chapel windows. Every January, thousands of pilgrims fill the holy streets of Aksum. The chapel rests quietly at the heart of this ancient mountain city. Around its stretch, the rugged peaks of northern Ethiopia. 600 miles south of Aksum lies another impossible mystery, the cross of Bet Georgis, carved straight down into the earth. The rock churches of Lalibela, sculpted from single mountains of stone. 800 years ago, a king named Lalibela had a vision. He saw a new Jerusalem rising. In the highlands of Africa, workers chiseled into solid rock. For 23 years, each strike of the chisel was a prayer for the kingdom of God. Legend says angels worked through every night, to finish the churches. Time itself bent for the workers of Lalibela, helping them succeed. Now narrow stone trenches connect these churches. In a sacred labyrinth, beams of sunlight cut through the dust. Inside the carved passages, in darkness, a single priest carries his candle. Through ancient tunnels, underground pools collect holy water. Blessed by centuries of prayer, Bet Georgis, carved in the perfect shape of an Ethiopian cross. From above, the symmetry of its design takes the breath away. Each year, thousands of pilgrims walk for weeks to reach these churches. Inside they weep, pray, and touch the walls their ancestors carved. During Jena, the Ethiopian Christmas, the rocks fill with worshippers, priests in colorful robes, led chants that echo through the canyons. The candles in their hands glow like a sea of stars at dawn. But Ethiopia is not only highlands and holy churches. Far to the east, the green mountains end, and the earth cracks open. A lone tree stands alone in the empty wasteland of the Afar plains. This is the Danakil Depression, the hottest inhabited place on Earth. The colors here belong to no landscape we know on this planet. Acid pools of neon yellow, electric green, and rust orange. Scientists in protective gear walk carefully. Across the boiling ground, at the heart of the Danakil rises Erta Ale, the smoking mountain. A lava lake bubbles inside its crater, glowing red against the night. From above, the molten surface swirls in living patterns of fire. A lone explorer stands on the rim, watching the volcano breathe. Yet even here, in the gates of hell, people live and survive. A weathered Afar elder has spent his life walking these salt flats. For centuries, his people have mined salt. From the burning plains, long caravans of camels carry the salt back to the highlands. At sunset, the line of camels stretches across the desert. Like a vein, the ancient salt route still crosses paths with the modern highway. From the cracked desert, the camera rises into the cool highlands. Farmers plow terraced fields with wooden plows pulled by oxen. Above the clouds rise the spires of the Simien Mountains. A lone Highlander walks along the ridge with his wooden staff. The cliffs of Ras Dashen reach up into the pure mountain air. The Walia ibex, with curved horns, stands at the edge of the cliffs. A leap between cliffs, hooves striking stone in pure silence. The rare Ethiopian wolf walks the misty plateau at sunrise. 60 gelada baboons graze together. On green mountain slopes, 2 geladas groom each other tenderly. In the morning sun, in small villages perched on the slopes, life moves with nature. At dawn, smoke rises from every thatched roof. In the highland village, a young boy guides his cattle through the cool morning mist. At night, the Milky Way arches. Above the quiet stone houses, a grandmother grinds yellow grain on a flat stone outside her hut. A farmer plows his terraced field with 2 oxen and a wooden plow. A river flows from the highlands of Ethiopia toward distant Egypt. Then the river plunges over the cliffs of the Blue Nile Falls. White spray rises into the air, catching rainbows in the sunlight. The Blue Nile Gorge, often called the Grand Canyon of Africa, on the islands of Lake Tana, stand ancient Ethiopian monasteries. Inside, monks write Guizi script with reed quills on parchment. A monk holds his cross, lit only by the soft warmth of candles. But Ethiopia's greatest gift to the world began in its forests. Bright red coffee cherries hang heavy from wild bushes in Kaffa. He carried the cherries to a monastery, where monks roasted them over hot coals. The green beans turned brown, releasing their scent. The monks poured the dark drink into small cups, sharing it together. That night, they prayed for hours, without ever feeling tired. From Kaffa, Coffee spread to Yemen, to Turkey, and across the world. Today, the most beautiful coffee ceremony still happens in Ethiopia. Family and friends gather around the host. In a softly lit room, the beans turn golden brown, smoke curling slowly upward. She crushes the roasted beans. In a tall wooden mortar with a pestle, guests sit on woven mats, with chini cups and fresh popcorn nearby. A grandmother passes a small cup of dark coffee. To a younger guest, steam rises from the cup, gentle and fragrant. In the candlelight, in Ethiopia, the meal itself is a circle of family and friends. The injera is unrolled and spread. Across a circular woven tray, golden teff fields sway gently. Across the green Ethiopian countryside, a ladle pours red doro what chicken stew over fresh warm injera, doro what with eggs, simmered in the deep red Berbera spice, kitfo. Finely minced beef topped with yellow butter and red spice, shiro, a rich and warm golden chickpea stew, served with injera, sizzling tibs cooking over an open wood fire. In a black iron pan, 3 pairs of hands tear and share injera together. As a family, in Ethiopia, no one eats alone. Every meal is a gathering of love. Sometimes a host places food directly in the mouth of their guest. 2 friends smile across the table, sharing food in soft window light. 6 Ethiopian faces, from 6 different peoples, each with their story. At the cultural festival, dancers from many ethnic groups perform together. The Amhara of the Northern Highlands gather for Sunday worship. The Oromo gather at Lake Ora. During the Erecha Thanksgiving Festival, the walled city of Harar, painted in pinks, blues, and greens, a mercy woman with a large clay plate in her stretched lower lip, a small mercy village of thatched huts on the open savanna, a Hamar woman with red ochre dyed hair, braided in twisted strands, a young Karo man with white chalk patterns painted across his body. Mid-leap, a Hamar man jumps from one bull's back to the next. A Hamar family gathers around a small fire. A peaceful sunset. An elder of the Omo Valley smiles softly. Eyes full of wisdom, the walled city of Harar, 4th holiest city in all of Islam, a narrow alley in Harar, painted in vibrant pastel colors, tracking through Harar's labyrinth of alleys. And midday, Akatsitsina Dorwai, carved with intricate wooden patterns, a Harari woman, in red and gold embroidered dress, smiles warmly. At night, fires flicker. Beyond the city walls of Harar, the hyena man crouches outside the gates, calling into the darkness. Wild hyenas approach. As he holds raw meat between his teeth, 6 wild hyenas gather around him, eating from his hand at night. The golden eyes of a hyena glow in the orange firelight of Harar. Far to the west of Harar rises the modern capital of Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, founded over 100 years ago by Emperor Menelik. The African Union headquarters stands at the heart of Addis Ababa, a traditional Orthodox church. Beneath the modern glass skyline, a priest in white robes blesses a young woman in modern business attire. A donkey passes the entrance of a 5-star luxury hotel in Addis. Addis Ababa from above, a sprawling city set on a mountain plateau. During the Mescal Festival, Mescal Square fills with hundreds of thousands. A herd of goats grazes peacefully in the green hills above the city. Mercato, the largest open-air market in all of Africa. From above, the metal roofs stretch for blocks. In every direction, a street vendor and a young woman share laughter over fresh grilled corn. A young woman in modern fashion walks confidently through the sidewalk. The Ethiopian flag rises high above the highlands. The sunrise, a 19th century map of Africa, with Ethiopia uncolored at its center. In 1895, Italian soldiers marched into Ethiopia. Emperor Menelik II Prepared to defend his ancient kingdom, he gathered 100,000 warriors from every corner of Ethiopia in the mountains of Adwa. The Ethiopian army crushed the invaders. A warrior raises a captured Italian flag. In the smoke of victory, the news shocked Europe. An African nation had defeated a colonial power. Across Ethiopian towns, celebrations erupted at the news of Adwa. But 40 years later, dark clouds returned to Ethiopia's sky. Mussolini sent tanks, planes, and chemical weapons into the country. Italian bombers flew over highland villages, dropping fire on the people. Emperor Haile Selassie stood before the League of Nations. In Geneva, he spoke calmly, warning that fascism would devour the world. Italian fascist banners hung over the occupied streets of Addis Ababa. Ethiopian patriots hid in the forests, fighting back for 5 long years. In 1941, Haile Selassie rode back into a liberated Addis. He took his throne again as emperor of a free Ethiopia. In 1963, he founded the Organization of African Unity. In Jamaica, Rastafarians began to worship him as a living messiah. But by 1974, dark storm clouds returned to the palace. The Derg, a military council, overthrew the emperor and seized power. Famine struck the country in the 80s. With great cruelty, the world watched the Live Aid concert raise funds for the suffering. Around the globe, families gathered to watch and donate to Ethiopia. Yet from those images of pain, the green highlands would rise again. Modern Addis Ababa, a city of cranes, towers, and rising skylines. New 4-lane highways now wind through the green Ethiopian highlands. Modern light rail trains carry commuters through the streets of Addis. Bole International Airport welcomes travelers from across the world. An Ethiopian Airlines Dreamliner takes off into a golden sunset. The airline now reaches more cities in Africa than any other carrier. On the Blue Nile, Ethiopia is building the largest dam in all of Africa. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a wall of concrete 2 kilometers wide. Inside, massive turbines hum as workers oversee the modern controls. An Ethiopian engineer looks up at the dam with quiet pride and hope. The same river that built ancient Egypt now powers a new Ethiopian future. At sunset, the Blue Nile winds through the deep Ethiopian canyon. A young Ethiopian student carries her laptop through a modern university. The campus is alive with young Ethiopians studying for tomorrow. Young Ethiopian creatives work together in a bright modern studio. An Ethiopian marathon runner crosses the finish line of an international race. Distance runners train together. Along a misty highland road at sunrise, they run along the cliffs of the Simien Plateau. Eye level with the clouds, Ethiopia has produced more Olympic distance champions than any nation. Abebe Bikila ran the Rome Marathon completely barefoot. In 1960, the Ethiopian flag flies high above the modern Addis Ababa skyline. Ethiopian Orthodox priests have raised their crosses for 1,500 years. In the 4th century, King Ezana made Aksum a Christian kingdom. Stone churches still glow at dawn. With the chants of robed monks, thousands of worshippers gather in Addis for the great religious festivals. The walls of the old churches are covered in vivid paintings of saints. In Harar, mosques have stood beside the city walls for over 1,000 years. The Al-Najashi Mosque, one of the very first ever built in Africa. Muslim refugees were welcomed here by the Aksumite king in the 7th century. In Ethiopia, mosques and churches stand side by side. In peace, Christian and Muslim families share meals together at the same table. Across the red mountains of Tigray, hidden monasteries cling to the cliffs. Beta Israel, the Jewish community of Ethiopia, prays in a small synagogue. An elderly elder reads from a leather-bound prayer book. By lamplight, in 1991, Operation Solomon airlifted the Beta Israel to Israel, a peaceful Ethiopian village, where church and mosque stand together at sunrise. A monk turns the pages of an ancient Guizi liturgical calendar. A printed calendar shows the 13 months of the Ethiopian year. After the rainy month of Pagum, the harvest fields turn to gold. Ethiopians celebrate Enkutatash, their own new year. On a different day, in 2007, Ethiopia welcomed the new millennium with fireworks. Every morning, the sun rises over the highlands. With the song of a rooster, the first golden light spreads. Across green hilltop fields and dewy grass, a monk stands in the doorway of a stone monastery, watching the morning come. The Harar, a 6-stringed lyre, fills small rooms with ancient melodies. Malatu Astaki, the father of Ethio jazz, plays his vibraphone on stage. A young woman in a white traditional dress performs the Eskista shoulder dance. 15 dancers perform Eskista. At an outdoor wedding celebration, an Ethiopian bride dances. In the center of a circle of family and friends, a grandmother laughs and dances. Together with her teenage granddaughter, a map of Ethiopia shows the different ethnic regions of the nation today. In Tigray, towns sat empty. During the recent years of difficult conflict, humanitarian workers walked through camps full of displaced families. A mother and her child wait quietly outside a humanitarian tent. In 2022, Ethiopia signed a long-awaited peace agreement. A small girl walks through the rubble. With sunlight on her hopeful face, an elder rebuilds his stone wall. With help from his young grandson, Ethiopia's history flashes by. From ancient stones to modern skylines, Debra Damo Monastery sits on top of a sheer cliff in northern Ethiopia. To reach it, a monk must climb a long braided leather rope. Up the cliff, inside, monks walk through dusty stone halls, lit by quiet candles. In the Geralta Mountains of Tigray, more rock churches rise into the sky. 3 pilgrims climb a narrow ledge. Along the side of a tall sandstone cliff, an ancient rock church glows, with 1,200-year-old painted saints. The Kanso Highlands are covered in ancient stone terraced fields. In the Bale Mountains, the Harena forest rises into the misty highlands. A remote village hides. Along a quiet bend of the Omo River, a cave entrance hides. Behind the spray of a waterfall in the highlands, a tiny isolated village sits alone on a remote mountain plateau. A monk closes the heavy wooden door of his ancient stone church. During Timkat, thousands of candles glow. In the hands of worshippers, priests carry covered replicas of the Arkansas. Beneath ceremonial canopies, a vast crowd follows the procession through the streets. Banners held high. Worshippers leap into the ceremonial pool. Blessed by the priests above, an elderly woman emerges from the baptismal water. With tears of joy, Mescal Square fills with hundreds of thousands. For the Mescal Festival, a massive bonfire bursts into orange flame. Against the indigo sky, glowing red embers swirl upward into the night above the worshippers. At Lalibela, pilgrims gather by candlelight for the Jenna Christmas Festival. Pilgrims sleep peacefully on the cool stone ground. Beneath the stars, at sunrise, tens of thousands turn their faces toward the morning light. Children offer fresh bouquets of yellow mescal daisies to a grandmother after the rains. A double rainbow arches over the green highlands. Gondar, the ancient royal city of Ethiopia, rises from green mountains. The Fazil Gebi Castle complex stands at the heart of the city, looking straight up at the towering walls of Fazilides Castle. Emperor Fazilides looks across his valley. From the castle balcony, the royal enclosure of Gondar glows with the colors of sunset, the ancient bath of phthalides. Surrounded by giant rooted trees, during Timkat, the bath of phthalides fills with joyful leaping worshippers. The famous ceiling of Debra Baran Selassie, painted with cherub faces, endless Ethiopian farmland stretches out. Beneath rolling rainy season clouds, farmers harvest golden teff crops by hand. On the green hillsides, rose farms near Lake Ziwe export flowers across all of Europe. In Paris cafes, the roses arrive fresh each morning from Ethiopia. In the dry Ogaden plains, oil rigs rise against the sunset. A miner's hand holds a chunk of raw gold ore from the Highland mines. A new industrial park glows at sunset. As workers head home, a young Ethiopian factory worker smiles proudly at the modern production line. Deep blue crater lakes near Bishoftu reflect the green hills above. The mysterious stone steels of Taya stand carved with ancient symbols. The Saf Omar caves stretch deep. Beneath the highlands of eastern Ethiopia, a male lion walks slowly across the dry savanna of Awash National Park. Lake Turkana stretches across the dry land. On the border with Kenya, a paleontologist's hands brush dust from a fossil. At the lake's edge, aerial views show Ethiopia's green highlands, deserts, and great valleys. An Ethiopian traveler stands on a high overlook, watching the sunset. An ancient Guizi parchment glows. In soft beeswax candlelight, a young calligrapher writes intricate Amharic letters. With a fountain pen, storefront signs in beautiful Amharic script line the streets of Addis. Two elders speak in quiet wisdom. Beneath a tall sycamore tree, a farmer's hand carefully drops a single seed into fresh dark soil. A grandmother braids her granddaughter's hair into traditional cornrows. An elder greets a visitor warmly at the door of his stone home. A family welcomes a guest into their warmly lit living room. The host places a fresh piece of injera in front of the smiling guest. An Ethiopian bride dances at sunset, surrounded by her smiling family. A beautiful bride smiles. In a traditional white Habesha chemise dress, a groom stands beside her. In white robes and a regal lion mane cape, a wedding reception fills the courtyard. With music, dance, and warm light, the Ethiopian diaspora carries its story to airports across the world. An Ethiopian restaurant in Washington, D.C. glows warmly at night. An Ethiopian family walks out of a church. On a snowy morning in Frankfurt, a young designer in New York sketches Habesha embroidery patterns. An Ethiopian mother sings a lullaby in Amharic to her sleeping child at a cultural festival. Ethiopian dancers perform for diverse crowds. An ancient hominid footprint rests preserved in stone. After 3 million years, a hand lets red Ethiopian soil sift through fingers. In the sunlit field, a priest stands alone at sunset. On a high Simien Mountain plateau, a small highland village glows softly. In the misty morning light, the chapel of the tablet stands quietly at dawn. Guarded by one man, the guardian monk closes his eyes peacefully. In the light of sunrise, his eyes slowly open, full of a quiet, unshakable knowing. The camera rises higher and higher. Above the green Ethiopian highlands, a mother holds her smiling infant. In a flowing white netala, the chapel of the tablet glows softly. In the first golden light of dawn, the Ethiopian highlands stretch to every horizon. In the morning light, the Ethiopian flag waves. Against a deep blue and gold sunrise sky,